Could you put? So how's this one like?
Oh, this one's different, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this
What?
we don't need. For this we just need to see and hear.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Because I won't be recording anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's you don't have to unplug it or anything. If
Okay.
you want to just keep the vibe, dude.
Yeah.
Do you? Could you put this guy on?
Absolutely.
Actually, let's
Do this one
back.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep this as
Wait, should I put this back in or no?
What's that?
Should I put this back in?
Well, yeah. I don't know if you want to snake it down your shirt.
Oh, I see. You're gonna do that
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
That's kind of how I do it. Is I go this way.
Oh,
I
I
go
see.
first, and then I go
Okay, got you.
connect it at the bottom.
I'll like put the whole thing down.
Yeah, and then that probably be a little easier. Cool.
Sweet. Oh.
I have like this little ancient MIDI, but it still works.
Yeah.
I love it. And then a bigger, well, the MDK one.
Who makes it?
What is that? Everything of Kai?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Absolutely. How are we sounding? Check, check, check. Mic check. Sweet. Let's get rolling. Sounds good. The rules. What do we do in the rules now? I'm not gonna save it.
And 10 seconds.
Sweet.
4, 3, 2, and play.
Welcome back, y'all. I'm Honor Indigo, and this is part 2 of our Audio Fundamentals workshop, where I go through everything you need to record and process audio to up to professional standard. So yeah, let's get into it. We are working on the rules right now in Logic Pro 10. So let's see. First things first. Let me see. I'll hide that back. Okay. So typically, or if you are mixing from a session that you haven't personally created, you'll be importing your files into the session. I'll just say make sure your files are quantized and that your session is in the correct key, so that we have all that good stuff set in case you do need to use a bit of auto-tune or you're using time-based processing. You can just go ahead and do that without any added steps. So here we are in the rules. First and foremost, you want to make sure everything is named properly. We did that in the last workshop, so everything looks good here. The second thing we want to do is make sure our balance is proper, y'all. Balance comes before mix, because your mix, the foundation of a good mix, of a brilliant mix, is just a super strong balance. And a balance basically is the way the instruments come together in a natural room, or like naturally, how would they come together in a way that makes sense? as a listener. So sometimes for this you can imagine a drum set or a full band in a space to see and to kind of like imagine how everything is coming through from the hi-hat to the vocal, the guitar, or whatever instrument you have. So the way we do that is just by playing with the faders. So I'm going to press X. Again, we're in Logic Pro 10, processing a track called The Rules. So we're just going to be playing with the faders for the balance, and let's listen. First thing you always want to do is listen. Off rip, it sounds like my snare is a little bit hot, so I'm going to start to take that down just a bit. It's also good to listen and tweak as you listen to kind of see how things feel in real time. I'm hearing the vocal kind of get drowned out by the piano a little bit, but I don't think it's a balance issue. I'm thinking it's a frequency issue, so we're not going to play around with that too much. I'm going to lower the piano just a bit. Snare's a little hot. Bring the kick down just a bit. A lot of your mixing and processing work you'll find is subtractive, y'all. Kind of think of it as chiseling away at stone. We're kind of revealing what's already there, which was maybe your idea or your inspiration in the first place. So we're doing our best to allow that to come through instead of adding things to form what you want or subtracting. Anybody or everybody feel free to ask questions too as they come up, if they do.
There's a balance. It might be like a balance versus frequency.
Yeah.
Can you show that?
Yes, I can show you what I'm hearing. So what I'm hearing is the vocal, kind of like the presence frequencies in my vocal. I'm hearing clash with the bright high-end frequencies of the piano. So what we can do is bring up a graphic EQ for both to kind of see where that might be happening, because I'm hearing it. But let's see what's going on. So this is our graphic EQ for our snare, which is not what I wanted to do. We're gonna go to our piano, bring an EQ up here, which in Logic you can just press the square right here next to EQ, and then so that's our piano, and then our vocal right next to it. We have this, and then if we play it, we should be able to see some overlapping frequencies. Okay, off rip, you want to see and listen to, now you can kind of see what's going on here. Obviously my piano is very mid-range, low mid-range heavy, which also happens to be where a lot of my, I'll say present and like dominant frequencies are in my voice. So what I'm going to want to do, once my balance is dialed in, is probably go ahead and lower some of the frequencies that are masking the present frequencies in my voice. So I was seeing a lot of kind of like that 1K, that warmth region, kind of be overpowered by the E piano. So I'm just gonna, really, I don't want to do this unless my balance is good, but because I know my balance is good, let's just transition right into this. Y'all, you really only want to be boosting on the graphic EQ up to 3 dBs, boosting or attenuating or taking out up to 3 dBs. Any more than that, and I highly suggest revisiting your balance, because past that, we just don't need to be augmenting sound that much. We don't need to be boosting 6 dBs, taking out 6 dBs. What we should be doing at that point is potentially sourcing different material, different sounds, or balancing. So I'm gonna take some of that AK out. The Q, or the bandwidth, kind of deals with how wide or how narrow your band EQ is. So because I'm kind of just going for this general area, I think I like this. Let's see what that sounds like. I wanna run away with you. And I'm hearing some of that brightness too on that third, what is it? Third degree of the chord progression. That dun, 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 like dun, it's that progression up here. That one gets a little bright for me too for the vocal. So I'm gonna attenuate some of that higher end as well. Okay, good. Always listening when you're making adjustments. And as you can hear, we've carved out a bit more of a lane for our vocal. Also, if you weren't following along from the last workshop, before you do any balancing or anything like that, we want to make sure all of our edits and arrangement are already finished. So in the previous workshop, we made sure everything was topped and tailed, so everything is edited nice and neatly before we even get started with the balance. Now you can see we have about 8 dBs of headroom, so that's good. Oh, 7 dBs. Does that answer your question? Also, for y'all who, okay, good. Yeah, absolutely. For y'all who didn't hear, our in-person guest was asking when to make a volume adjustment for balance versus a frequency adjustment for relationship between different elements, between the vocal and the piano in that instance. So I'm happy with my balance. We carved out a little bit of space for the vocal. I'm just gonna go in and see if anything else needs EQing. I wanna run away with you, but I'm only here to stay true. It's also a good rule of thumb to get familiar with what part of the frequency spectrum each element is taking up. So when I think about my snare, I want to know kind of where the bulk of that is coming through. So we have the fundamental, which is the main frequency from which harmonics are built off, around 20 or 250, 400 hertz for the snare. So it's going to be like the lower part of it, like the beefy part, as you can hear. And then the rest of this up here is going to be the high frequency, kind of like punching, like kind of like punchiness of it. Cool. Also, don't be afraid to solo things. What do the piano and the kick sound like together? Okay, real quick, I'm going to show you all another technique for creating space. This is going to be called side chain compression. So on the track that you're going to be attenuating some of that signal to make space for something else, that's where you're going to be putting your compressor. So any compressor is okay. you want to make sure you use similar compressors throughout one project so that we have continuity within the sound. Because we're using this as a sidechain compressor, it doesn't really matter which one we use. So I'll just use the regular default one. And then what I'm doing is setting or routing the signal from my E piano. Oh, pardon me. Piano. I'm on my kick, so that's the wrong track. Let's go to the E piano. We're gonna drag that compressor over here. Open that up. Now I'm routing the signal from my kick to my compressor, which is on my piano. So now when the kick plays, the signal of my piano should duck out of the way. Now because I have auto gain on, it's making up for that attenuation, so I'm gonna take that off and we should be able to hear the effect. The attack being how quickly the compressor is engaged. This is in milliseconds. The release being how quickly or how slowly it turns off. So this is our release. And then the knee is just going to be the point. So the threshold basically tells you what the threshold in the compressor tells you when the compressor is being engaged or past what point the compressor is being engaged. So here I have negative 26 dBs. Past that, it's being engaged. The ratio is going to tell you how much it's attenuating per dB. So say it's a 2-to-1 ratio. For every 2 dBs, 1 dB of signal is being attenuated or taken out. Same thing with 4-to-1 ratio. For every 1 dB or for every 4 dBs, pardon me, let me see, 4-to-1, 2-to-1. Yeah, for every 1 dB, that would be 3/4 being taken out. Or for every 4 dB, 1 dB is taken out. Yeah, y'all get it. My math heads, y'all following along. Do you have any questions on compression? Because this is a really important one that I think some people get mixed up.
It's taking me a while to learn and understand it, but
yeah,
I felt like I understood it.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, good. If I can explain like one more time, basically the threshold is basically exactly what it's called. It's the point at which the whole compressor is engaged, right? So say your signal pushes past the threshold, your compressor is on. From there, the ratio dictates how much of your signal is being compressed or taken out, right?
Could you give like an analogy, like if my voice, like maybe what we were talking about earlier, like if I'm belting it?
Yes. Okay, yeah, perfect. So we have a question of like an example of what that looks like. So in the example that you're belting, right, let's say the threshold on our compressor is, I don't know, let's just throw something out there. We'll say negative 10 dBs. So that's pretty loud for it to be engaged, but you're belting, so it makes sense. Say your belting is coming in at like 0 dBs. So then you're pushing 10 dBs past the threshold. If your ratio is at 2-to-1, then you'll be attenuating 5 dBs. Yep. There's two main kinds of compression. There's leveling compression. So for instance, if we look at this waveform here, and I want the dynamics to be a bit more uniform, I would find the threshold around where these peaks are coming in at. The peaks are going to be obviously what pushes past the threshold first. And then I would put my threshold around where those peaks are coming in. And then I would set my ratio a little bit lower to maybe like a 1.5 or a 2-to-1 to kind of just squish it just enough so that things become a little bit more uniform as opposed to like squashing everything. So that would be leveling compression. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is it gonna, so if I'm like belting it and it gets louder as well,
yeah,
is it gonna crush the quality of the sound or just keep it from like
going
crazy?
And that's why you want to use a compressor. So the question was, if the belting goes like super loud from maybe not being as loud, is it going to crush all the sound together? So if your compressor, if the settings are dialed in properly, you should be able to get super loud without clipping, and you should be able to be quiet without it being super quiet. So then you have a more uniform signal. Sometimes it takes multiple layers of compressors if you are like a super loud singer, just to make sure it doesn't clip, but that also so that the dynamic range is somewhat uniform, you know, so we're not just, oh my God, all over the place. Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, there's leveling, compression, and then just like subjective compression. So we have our sidechain compressor on there, so our piano is ducking out and creating space for our kick. Cool. See how the hat sounds. Fire. Okay, cool. So I'm happy with my balance. I think everything has its own lane in the spectra, in the frequency spectrum. So now we can get to processing, yo. So with reverb, the reason you're putting reverb on the track is to put your music, if it isn't already, in a believable space. That is the whole point of reverb. So the room I'm in now, I'm getting a natural reverb, and it's not that crazy because there's natural diffusion. There's what is it? Like, not robes, but curtains. There's furniture. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So naturally, the diffusion will cause the reverb not to be as saturated, right? Whereas a room with nothing in it, just bare bones, just walls, you'll find has a lot of reverb, right? So what we're doing is dialing in our reverb to make it sound like an atmosphere that we're listening to the music in. Without reverb, if you just have dry signal, the mind is going to pick up on it and be like, what is this? This sounds crazy. It doesn't sound natural or real. So we'll start with drums. So for this, I know I want the reverb to be on all of my tracks, so I'm going over to the mix bus that I created, which has the signal of my kick, my hat, and my snare, which is why it's called drums. So from here, we'll bring up the mixer, X for mixer. I'll go ahead and choose which reverb I want. I'll use Valhalla Vintage Verb. Where'd she go? And then just as a rule of thumb for, I actually have to press it. Just as a rule of thumb for reverb, oftentimes the not, wow, fourth's the charm? God dang. Oftentimes the not, you really don't want the high end, like past 5K in the reverb. You really don't want things under like 300 hertz in the reverb, because it's reverb, it's going to convolute, it's going to muddy up your whole sound, be that high frequencies with high frequencies or low frequencies. So you'll see a lot of like filters and whatnot in the reverb chain. Like for instance, what I'm going to do before I even listen to it is filter out some of those low end frequencies, those sub frequencies, because we don't need to put reverb on a sub and those high frequencies. The sibilants, those don't really need reverb. And then this way, since it's on the auxiliary bus, what we can do is just mix, kind of like just mixing our sound. So let's see, Valhalla, it's at 100%. So this is 0, mix it in. Also, you can mess with your pre-delay, low cut. This is gonna make sure that the lows are cut, the highs are cut. And then let me see, we'll go now, we'll go. Also, I taught this in the last class, but if you're looking for a quarter note reverb or delay based off your BPM, what you're gonna do is divide 60,000. It's really 60,000 milliseconds by whatever BPM you have. So say I'm looking for a quarter note for me, my BPM is 115. I'm gonna divide 60,000 by that. So what is that? 521 milliseconds. Your answer will be in milliseconds. If you get a 1 point something is, say you get 1,000, then the 1,000 represents 1 second. Okay, so my chord note is around 500. So what I can do is bring this back. Now my decay is roughly half a second.
And that's just for decay?
Or
what else could I use that for?
Delay as well.
Delay.
Yeah, so this is my decay on my reverb. We had a question, is this formula just for decay? This also stands for, this is a formula for delay, but it works for reverb as well. So for delay, this will give you your quarter note, which if you have your tempo set up properly, it'll already be set up for you. So say if I was gonna go to delay, and I put a quarter note, it'll show you. See, 521 milliseconds. That's what I got.
Sweet.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Quick maths, of course. Absolutely. Again, that's the quarter note. So then you can just multiply it by, say, 2 for a half note. So like 2, then see 1,000. It's 1,000 seconds or 1 second. And then a whole note is 2,000. So you're just multiplying whatever you get by 2 or by 4 for the various different notes. For delay and or reverb. I'm gonna keep our reverb simple and then start to mix that reverb in. So you can hear it on that snare or on the hi-hat and the snare as well. And y'all, you don't need much reverb. You need enough so that the brain feels like this is natural anymore. And we start getting into creative decisions, which is cool, but just be easy.
One question before I go.
Yeah, please.
What is decay?
Decay is how long something takes for the signal to cease to end.
Oh.
So for the reverb from the starting signal to the ending, it takes about half a second here.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So.
Yes, and the attack, this is in a percentage, which you won't really see that often, but the attack basically is how long the signal takes to ramp up to its like full power. Cool. I'm happy with that. You know what? I put our reverb on my drum auxiliary track. What I'm going to do is create an additional one. What is that? How do I do that? Options, create auxiliary. I'm gonna call this verb. And what we'll do is move the verb to its own auxiliary. That way we can mix into it. So I'm putting this at 100% because we're gonna be mixing into it. And then from here, for our auxiliary, we'll use a bus and just send some of that signal to the verb, which will be mixing it in. Thank you for coming.
Much.
Absolutely.
Alright, bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, thank you. Honestly, like just to where you can't hear it, like just below being able to pick out the reverb is probably a good place to be. Oh. That's good. The reason I made an auxiliary track, an aux track for the reverb itself, is so that I can mix, so I can send some of the vocal signal to the same reverb. So now, I know that bus 4 has my reverb on it. Let's see what it sounds like. Cool. I think the piano should get a little bit as well. Oh, it already is. Nice. Drums getting some. Cool. Let's make a delay track. I'm going to create another auxiliary for the delay. Tape delay is a solid delay, a solid stock delay in Logic. We'll go stereo. Wet needs to be 100% because we're mixing into this plugin here, and I think a quarter note should be okay. So let's mix into that and see how it sounds. Okay, so typically I did start with reverb and delay for this track, but typically you want to have every track sounding the way it wants before you like do too much with reverb and delay. Here we can afford to because it's only 5 tracks, but say for something like the vocal, I would want to make sure the presence and like the overall tone of it is completed before I start time-based processing it. So that looks like any compression that needs to be done, any EQing that needs to be done, I'm doing that first before I think about reverb or delay. So I have an EQ on here. Let's solo this and see what it needs. Okay, I'm gonna bypass the reverb and delay. Let's get a shelf EQ in here to take out some of those bass frequencies, just like things we're not hearing. Careful you don't, careful not to bump into the fundamental, which is going to be the largest part of the frequency range. So here we can see it at around 200. This is my fundamental. So that's an important frequency we don't want to interrupt. The sub frequencies can go. What was that? Okay, cool. Let me see. Maybe a little bit of leveling compression. Dynamics, compressor. Take makeup gain off, please, please, please. And because we already used this compressor, I'm just gonna be using this one again for continuity. So let's find our threshold. For leveling compression, I would say on the top end, you're taking out like 2.5 dBs. You're attenuating 2.5 dBs. I'd say that's like on the generous end. But because we're just leveling, we're just adding a bit of uniformity here. We don't want to do too much with the compressor. So I'm aiming to attenuate about 2-ish max. Looks good. Cool. So our ratio is about 2.1 to 1. I'll bring that down a little bit. Let's see what 1.8 sounds like. You also want to make sure you are monitoring some of the loudest parts of your track or of the track, so that you're not setting your compressor to lower parts. That would make whatever the compressor is doing a little bit inaccurate for what you're going for. Rule of thumb to just monitor the louder parts with whatever you're fixing up. So we're attenuating 2 dBs here. What we want to do is make up for those 2 dBs that we attenuated with the makeup gain knob. Attack is going to dictate how quickly or how slowly the compressor kicks in. Same with release, how quickly or slowly it is turned off. So these are also in milliseconds. And we always want to make sure we listen to the original dry signal and pair that up with the processed signal. So I'm hearing the track, the vocal, just be a little bit more full because of that leveling compression. Also, when you're compressing, the lower parts of your signal will become louder and the louder parts will become a bit quieter in the creation of that uniformity. So after you compress something is a good opportunity to make any tweaks with another EQ if need be. For me, what I'm hearing is that I want a little bit more presence. I want a little bit more brightness in the vocal. So I think I want to run away with numbers. I think we're going to boost some of those present frequencies, so like 3K and up. Again, you don't want to do too much. Around the 800 to 1K mark is kind of like that warmth. So it can be boxy, but there are parts of it that add like a good warmth, and it's kind of like an intro to presence part of the frequency spectrum. So I might want to bump that a little bit. Also, when you're attenuating or boosting, attenuating meaning just taking out, you want to listen to how what you're doing affects the relationship between other instruments and between other parts of the frequency range. So I just boosted the high end here. I boosted some of that, the mids. What does that sound like in reference to the fundamental now, or like maybe a different instrument in the track? I wanna run away with you. Without? But I'm only here to stay tonight. And with again. If there's another way to prove. Cool. Oh. Sweet. With reverb, what does that sound like? I wanna run away with you. I'm going for a subtle sound for reverb, so I'm gonna dial that back a little bit. But I'm only here to stay tonight. Space Designer. Hold on a second, yo. When did I put this on there? I didn't. I knew this sounded weird. Okay, so this is on 1, 2, IC bus. Wait. Oh, I see. I'll call this bus 6. I had this routed the wrong way. So 6 is our verb. Tape delay is 5. Okay, good. I wanna run away with you, but I'm only here to stay tonight. I like that. How does she sound with the piano? 6. Bring that reverb in. I guess I can leave that. I wanna run away with you, but I'm only here to stay tonight. If there's another way. Cool. I want delay on the piano, so we have our delay already set up. It's on bus 5. Let's mix into that. For delay, our feedback knob is going to dictate how many times we're actually getting a copy of that initial signal. So I turn that up, we'll get more iterations in the delay. There's also a filter built into the tape delay, so I'm taking out some of those low end frequencies and high end. Oh shoot. Shoot. This is coming in a little warm, y'all. And it's because our delay has some of those lower frequencies in it. So we're gonna take those out. I wanna run away with you,
there's another way to prove, but I wouldn't want to change the rules.
I do want to do a little bit of tuning on the vocal as well. I would recommend Waves Tune. It's an easy one to go with. I believe we're in G minor. Note transition, I like to have around 30-40 milliseconds. Correction, nothing too crazy. Solo the vocal.
I wanna run away with you, but I'm only here to stay to you. If there's another way to prove, but I wouldn't want to change.
Wow. Maybe we go without auto-tune because that sounds like crap. Okay.
I wanna run away with you, but I'm only here to stay to you. If there's another way to prove, but I wouldn't want to change.
Hey. Cool. Turn the delay down a bit. I was hearing a little bit more of that low end, so I'm gonna clean that up just a bit more. And I think the vocals sound solid. Let's hear it without its effects. Without our processing. And with. All right, cool. So we've created atmosphere for our track. We have created clarity. We've created presence. We've created stronger relationships between different elements. These are all things we're aiming for in mixing. For drums, I always say everything is very preferential. Everything is subjective. What I do want to do is crunch these a little bit. I want to compress these a little bit to kind of glue everything together, known as glue compression. So let's get in here and see what we can do. Without. With. Fuck, I mean freak. My goodness. I'm going for a little stutter step here. Typically you don't want to do this in post, but because I produced this, it's okay. Is it okay? Yes, it's okay. Cool. So just with that filling out of the drums, you'll notice we came from around -9 dBs of dynamic range of space, of headroom, to 6, which is where we want to be for kind of like the finalizing part of our mix. I wanna change the rule. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's get our master track set up. In Logic Pro, we have this thing called a stereo out, which pretty much is the master track. The master on here is really just master volume. It's not really the master track. So on stereo out, what we want to have, y'all, first and foremost, whoa. Oh my goodness. Take this off. We want to have metering equipment up. So for metering, get the multimeter. This will show you your true peaking as well as your RMS, which is pretty much your average peaks. And then what else? We want a loudness meter. Loudness. These go at the end of the chain here. What we also want is a compressor. We'll use the same one we did on the other tracks. Turn auto gain off. We will also need a limiter. This is kind of like a general chain, a general lineup for a chain. The limiter is going to bring us to the loudness we want. I should start with compressor. The compression is going to add a little, just because this is at the end of everything in our signal flow in our chain, this is going to add a little bit of kind of like mastering compression or leveling compression, but because it's on the end, any small tweak is significantly making a difference. So we're just going to be tweaking that incrementally. Going into the limiter, we want to have the limiter set to -1 dB for the output, or around -14 LUFS. I'll say between -8 and 14 LUFS, depending on what you're doing. If you want a really, really loud track and you just want it to bulldoze past any other track, I would say, yeah, go for -8. But if you want to not contribute to the loudness wars and like the noise pollution, then I would say like -14 is acceptable. Okay, so let's listen and start dialing it in. Also, for the multimeter here, what this is showing us here in the correlation parameter is the relationship between the left and the right side of the track. If we're in the green with it, then that's great. It's a good balanced track. If it's kind of teetering towards the left and the red, then the song or the track is unbalanced. So let's listen. Cool. This is the heartbeat. Nice. I feel like the vocal could come up just slightly. I took it down before, but cool. So the compressor, again, this is the first plugin on our master chain. We're using this to glue everything together, glue everything. What's happening here is kind of the stragglers, the outliers are being reined in a little bit, and everything that's a little quiet. So quiet outliers are they're being let's say motivated to be a part of the rest of the frequency, the group. So we'll do super light here, so maybe like a 1 to 3. Listening for uniformity, for life. With a track like this, I'm not scared to push 1.5 dBs of attenuation because maybe it needs that little push. So I'm making up for 1.5 here. It might have just added a bit more energy, some more energy that it needed. So we have that going there. This should be a little bit louder. Yeah, we're coming in at -5.5 now. Option, y'all, to add a graphic EQ. I would probably put this before the compressor. So this is more of a heavy lifting EQ, a linear phase EQ. It's just gonna go in and do a little bit more work than the graphic. It does take up a bit more CPU though, however, so I feel like the vocal frequencies could be boosted a little bit. Which, if you remember, this whole range is also where our snare is. So just, you know, be careful you're not boosting something that doesn't need to be boosted. I think I'm gonna lower the Q and come maybe like over here a little bit. And then we're using the limiter to mix into our ceiling here, which is -0.1 dB. And then we can start to bring our meters out. So the loudness meter is measuring perceived loudness, which is in LUFS. Decibels is just going to be the digital signal, electrical signal. So I'm mixing upward into -0.1 dB using the limiter. Let's get there. We're about 0.7 away. I think this might have pushed this over a little too far. The snare is sounding kind of loud. I'm gonna just duck this out, maybe a dB and a half. What does that sound like? I wanna run away with you. Maybe a bit more. But I'm only here to stay true. All right. Oh, interesting. So we've hit the limiter. We've hit the wall. Okay, so once your signal has hit the wall of the limiter, what you want to make sure you do is make sure the signal isn't pushing past that -0.1 and just being squashed, because what the limiter is a compressor with a hard threshold. With a hard ratio. It's an infinite ratio, so as soon as it touches the threshold, it gets cut off. So we don't want that. We want to preserve our dynamics as we're increasing volume. So what I'll do is dial this back a little bit to see which part of the signal is loud. So right there, it jumps. So we have about 0.3 until -0.1. So I'm gonna boost this twice, and I should be coming in at -0.2. Great. So now I know where the peak is. So from here I can boost it 0.1 dB and be right at the wall without any dynamics getting taken away, without any dynamics getting squashed.
I wanna run away with you,
Cool.
but I'm only here to stay.
Let's see how loud we're coming in.
If there's another way to prove, but I wouldn't wanna change the rules.
Okay, cool. So integrated, which means the left and right side, I'm coming in at about -16 LUFS. So again, even -14 LUFS is it's significantly loud. It's very loud. So for a track like this, because I am not too worried about the competitiveness of this loudness in reference to, say, streaming tracks, I'm okay with the -16. If we look at our multimeter, everything looks good. The heartbeat looks good. She's alive. Also, if you are using the multimeter, you want to aim for your true peaks, or these appear to be -1 on both sides, which we have. So I could do more work to make this a little bit louder and get us in between that -14 and -8 LUFS range, but because I just don't want this track to be super loud, I'm okay with this. So from here, we have our loop set. We can export. So I'm gonna set that. It's a Command B for Logic, and make sure it's a wave. Again, make sure dithering is off. Dithering is just added sound. Normalize is off. That'll increase the volume of your track. We don't want that. We're mixing. We're not asking the computer to do it for us. Okay, cool. If you do want a copy of it in MP3 to send your people or whatever, just in a lower file size, check MP3. Otherwise, waveform is perfect. Okay, and then I'll call it the rules. Audio fundamentals workshop. Desktop, cool. Sweet, let's see how she sounds. Here it is. Here. Nice. I'm happy with it. So cool. Just to recap, y'all, we went over file import. So that looks like setting the BPM, the proper BPM in your session, setting the proper key of the song. From there, naming the tracks accordingly, grouping some if need be. From there, we balanced everything. So everything had a good relationship with one another before we got into processing and mixing. From there, we did a little bit of processing on the vocal. We did some on the piano, I believe, as well. And then we introduced atmosphere with our reverb and got a little creative with our delay. From there, we mixed into headroom using our master track. We used an EQ, a compressor, and limiter, and then metered everything with the loudness and multimeter. Yeah. So from here, you have a finished, technically mastered track. This is good for YouTube. This is good for Spotify, Apple Music, streaming services, podcasts, and just clear professional sound. If you all do have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. In the meantime, get creative and keep practicing. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for your time.